Love's been hidden from the eye, hidden by a darkened sky, in a world that's torn apart. The light of love shines in my heart. I have found a place within to dream the dream of peace again. Feel the love the heavens sent, how it heals and warms and mends. Here is our home, now is our time, the light of love forever shine.
This is Esther Davis, and today we're talking about world peace. Why can't we have world peace? Did you know that there are several large groups that go to the war zone almost every month, marching for peace? So we want you to enjoy the Women's Federation for World Peace on the Esther Davis Show, and we are all about world peace. Enjoy the program.
Welcome to Voices of Peace. Recently, over 500 women from 41 countries traveled to Jerusalem to make their contribution to the urgently needed work of building peace in the Middle East. They visited homes and hospitals, schools and street markets, making the point, and where possible, showing how women's hearts can bring solace and healing beyond politics and religion. In the sensitive balance of facing the two entrenched and painful sides of the conflict, they sought to take the motherly role of embracing both sides. And these are some of their stories.
I feel that something very unique to women is their need and their ability to communicate. And this is a very important key to peace, to communicate.
So I felt that God had really called all of these people from so many areas, you know, ministers and women activists from NGOs.
Some people had a strong Christian background, some people had a, you know, maybe not such a religious background, but they were here because they wanted to support peace in the Middle East.
Mother's heart is really the only one that can embrace both sides, and without asking the question who is right and who is wrong, just help both be happy and prosper.
And the Women's Federation for World Peace is just so interested in a project like this, of creating bridges, which is really what we do, through relationship.
Well, a very special experience for me upon my arrival here in Israel was the chance to go on the Sea of Galilee on a boat trip with women from all over the world. And I always loved the ocean and the water and boats, and the combination of God-centered women. It seemed to be within a few minutes after the ride started, one member really poured their heart out, Donna Seelig, and she really shared how she's, you know, God touched her. We had this deep heart in common, and I felt that heart, for me, got activated on that boat. And now we could just be together and start this journey together. My spirit just started to take off.
Well, coming to the Sea of Galilee, I knew it was going to be beautiful because I had the experience of coming 2 times before on a different kind of tour. And so I had been on the boat, and I knew that it was possible to have a very wonderful experience there, that someone would lead a program, you know, some singing or maybe a sermon or something, some sharing. And the moment that we stepped onto the boat, people just began joining in the singing and dancing. It was like the spirit was just suddenly so free, something about being on the water, you know. Being on water is, for many people, is a very freeing thing. You feel very natural, and the negative ions in the air, something like that. But just the whole preparation of us coming there, that we had a deep purpose, but this was a really liberating time, that it was our own world on this boat. And I got the microphone from the captain, who was rather surprised that I wanted it, but I got the microphone, and I just, just started calling people up to sing or, say something that they wanted to share or offer a song. And the whole spirit was just free. And for myself, it was a truly incredible moment or hour out of time that I've always loved to dance, and I felt called on, I've received an inspiration to call on, had something deep to share and added to the atmosphere. And we just ended with everybody dancing all over the whole boat. And also interestingly, before we got there, the sea was totally calm, just really flat. But as soon as we started on our journey, this beautiful breeze came up, and there were even little white caps at some point, not enough to rock the boat, but we rocked the boat with our spirit and our energy. People sang and prayed and shared and danced and applauded each other and wept. It was just incredible. I think the boat captain was like, what is going on here? And our tour guide said, you guys went a little crazy. I said, yeah, but it was good, right? He said, yeah, it was good. It was very good.
We had a wonderful chance to visit the Hand in Hand school, which was created by women to help children from the very beginning learn about the other culture. If they're Jewish, they learn about the Palestinians. The Palestinians learn about Jewish children, and they play with each other, they share with each other, but they learn each other's traditions. And we think this is such a wonderful example of what the Women's Federation for World Peace is trying to do, because we also try to establish relationship between people that maybe don't understand each other. And it was very evident that children, when they're given the space to play with each other, get to know each other, they don't see the differences. And we're trying to build the same kind of bridge in all things we do. So not only did we see what was happening there, but we became sisters at Women's Federation too, at the Hand in Hand school, and really committed to continue supporting them and make sure that this island of hope that's in the middle of Jerusalem, in the middle of the Mideast, continues and flourishes. And we also visited the Hadassah Hospital, which was in the same vein, created by women, with the same vision of we're no different. The doctors, technicians, nurses, etc., all from all faiths, and all the patients are. So Islam, Jewish, Christian, whatever. And again, it's an island of hope. And I was so lucky because had a chance to walk around some of the wards, and I was on the children's ward. They had cancer. And I saw a young boy, about maybe 11, and he looked just between the ages of my two sons. And when I saw what he was doing, I immediately related. He was sitting there playing on a computer, a little game, like a Nintendo game, just like my sons did. So I just knelt down and started talking to him. I showed him pictures of my kids. He took out his wallet and showed a picture of his brothers. And I just felt, he could be my kid.
As a part of this women's conference, I came to Israel because I really wanted to understand the root of the conflict here, to be able to see with my own eyes and experience myself what was really going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And so I really wanted to not only tour the historic sites of Jerusalem, but I wanted to go to Bethlehem and see the situation there for myself. The first place we visited was an open-air market, but we saw shops with empty shelves. The people were sitting outside with so little to show, so little to be able to even make a living from. We visited the Women's Union, and there was a mother with a baby who was obviously quite sick. She was holding the baby was all hot and crying, and the mother was so worried and concerned. And it turned out that she had been trying to find milk for the baby all morning and hadn't been able to get any. And so just a simple small thing, but we were able to give her some money so that we knew she would be able to buy milk and just comfort her and comfort the baby. And it was so amazing because later we went to the Church of the Nativity, and by chance this mother was there with the baby, and she came over to us and her face was transformed. She was so happy because she'd been able to buy milk for the baby, and she had gone there like giving thanks to God, and she had the priest giving a blessing on the baby, but she just came up to me and kissed me on both cheeks, and she was just so happy that, you know, that we'd been able to help. We could also see that the residents feel so sad about being separated from the rest of Israel by the artificial confines of a wall. We saw young girls, young schoolgirls who couldn't continue with their education. They couldn't go to the next higher level because the high school is beyond the boundaries of where they can live. They're confined to this space. So not just physically confined, but mentally, they can't even advance. We also came upon a fountain of peace, which ironically was dried up. So much like the prospect of peace for the people there. They feel the whole peace process has just dried up, no hope. Across the valley was a large Israeli settlement that looked like a besieged fortress built in a defensive mode, up high with the walls around.
And when we got back into Jerusalem, I could see yet another perspective. I heard about a 16-year-old Jewish girl whose best friend had been hurt in a bus bombing. She was afraid to even take the bus to school since she had to transfer several times. But finally, all she really wanted to do was just get the courage to return to school again.
It's just sad that the people can't live together on the land. It was so moving because even though these people are in such a very pitiful situation, they were so kind, so generous, so warm. They just touched my heart so much. And seeing really their desperate circumstance, it just called and tugs on my heart now that I want to help them in whatever way I can.
Coming to the Dome of the Rock for me as an Israeli is a bit like visiting the home of the fathers of our faith. It's like, in a way, it's really like coming home to the very origin of our faith, but unfortunately also the origin of our conflict. Because this is where traditionally, according to the Muslim tradition, Muhammad took off to the heavens, and this is also where Abraham actually sacrificed Isaac. So this place ties together two very significant moments in both traditions, the Jewish and the Muslim. And for me as an Israeli, of course, the story of Abraham makes me think right away about Sarah and Hagar. And it's true, these two women intrigued my heart for a long time. And I feel that the relationship with these two women is really a key, even today, to what's going on here in the Middle East. We can think that this is something that happened 4,000 years ago and it's really nothing to do with today. But I don't believe so. I don't believe so. I really believe that this is somewhere at the very upfront of our relationship with each other. And I, as Israeli, would really like to see Israeli women taking the position of Sarah, who chased away Hagar for whatever reasons it was at the time, really apologize sincerely and repent sincerely for this act, because I feel the hearts of our Muslim brothers and sisters carry that wound in their hearts until today. And I feel that if we don't take this chance to really apologize and repent for this, it will be very difficult for them to take a step towards us. And even if we think that this is something that happened very long time ago, I met a young Jordanian person some years ago, And when he heard that I was Israeli, the very first thing they told me was, your mother chased away my mother, and now I cannot talk to you. And I was amazed that a young Jordanian person whose mind in pop music and things like this would have it so upfront their mind just when they see me. So I really believe that solving this historical conflict will have an impact of our today's life. And I feel that what we have done today, visiting the different holy places and the Dome of Rock, we are visiting those departure points in history, and we are trying to restore them in some way. We are trying to go back there, and we are trying to give them a new dimension. We are trying to, in some way, repair what was done before and didn't work out.
The Bridge of Peace on that night became a bridge of magic for me. When I crossed the bridge, I seeing my Jewish sister across, I personally reflected for a moment and thought of my German ancestors and all those who have harmed my Jewish brothers and sisters, and I asked them to come with me. I asked in the spirit that we could truly come together with our Jewish brothers and sisters, because we are actually family. And so I started to walk with my carnation. And the moment we bowed to each other, I felt the warmth coming from her side. And we immediately connected like I don't know, like glue. It was heart to heart. It was strong. It was soul to soul, actually. That's what I can say. It was soul to soul coming together in spirit, not even knowing each other. And we both must have felt, we want to solve this thing. We are going to make a difference. We're going to turn this around. So we embraced. And it was truly like my sister, like I'd known her for a long time. And we didn't want to stop, right? And suddenly there was no barrier. There was nothing between us. And so we exchanged our carnations, and we felt we are truly now together. And we went down the stairs, and I really felt so proud that this woman, coming from a family who were actually victims of Auschwitz, was willing, joyfully willing, to come together with the enemy, a German woman. And I do believe that women have the ability to really want to come together and to leave away and put aside the differences for the sake of the greater good. Because we think of the future, we think of the children, we think of the world, and we want peace. That's why we do this. I really believe that there was both of our desires. And so when we compared notes that's exactly what happened. We found out that she had already begun a process of reconciliation by singing, bringing music, using the instrument or the tool of music to move people's hearts and move them to a higher dimension so they can see the greater good. And they can be willing to change, because it does take a personal change to make a difference. And through the exchange of the flower, the carnation, it was like we are reversing history. We're creating new history. And we embraced. And I remember I kind of grabbed her so strongly that I lifted her off the floor and overwhelmed. We felt so close, and it was because it was mutual. That was the good part. And I just felt like free, liberated, joyful. And I thought, well, from here on, there's nothing we cannot do together.
Today, when we went to the rally, I wasn't sure what to expect about the rally either. And it was a lot of fun doing the peace walk and just talking with every woman that we passed on the way. I met some wonderful women. And of course, some of the, I felt a lot of my experience here, I felt like I needed to really get it. What are people feeling? And it wasn't always good. I mean, one minute I would talk to a woman and she'd say, thank you so much for being here. And the next, someone would take the flyer about, the rally and just crumple it up and throw it. There's a lot of pain here, and so I felt I need to absorb this pain. I need to absorb it. And but it was always very inspiring to meet a woman, young, old, whatever, who was grateful and inspired and was interested and wanted to come. And so the process, the peace walk itself, was really wonderful. And then when we got there, there were a lot lot of Palestinian women sitting in the back. And I wasn't sure why they were in the back, but I realized later it was because that's where the shade was. And I really wanted to connect with them because I hadn't had that chance yet. And we walked by a group, and they actually motioned to us and said, sit, sit. Or maybe they didn't say it, but they motioned. So we sat down with them, and we struck up this relationship. I could say a friendship, but of course we couldn't speak the same language. But, you know, within minutes we were connecting, and I have to say the universal symbol, that was always my first thing. And, you know, I'd say children, and they'd say, you know, 4, and I'd say 3, and we communicated like that. And in the program, some music started, and we just got up, and we started dancing. And the circle got bigger and bigger and bigger, and the joy on everyone's faces was just beautiful. And the other thing that's so wonderful about women is that physical closeness is easier. So, and I think it brings us closer. It's easier for us to do it, and also it brings us closer. So there was a lot of warmth, and the dancing, you know, created that connection even more deeply. And then, you know, during the program, we talked a little bit more. Actually, the group that we sat with was one whole family, 3 women who were all sisters-in-law. So they all were married. They were married to 3 brothers, and then their daughters. So they were all together, and the 18-year-old was doing the translating. She was the only one that had any English at all. Anyway, this group of women had to leave early. They came from Bethlehem on a bus, and they traveled 2 hours, and their bus was leaving before the end of the program. And we were like, you know, we didn't want to leave each other, and I felt I just wanted to give them something. So I was kind of going through my purse, did I have anything in there? And I actually had a scarf that I had worn when we visited the mosque in the morning. And I wasn't sure, can they wear this kind of scarf? I didn't know, but I just felt I needed to give them something. So I grabbed the teenager and I said, I want to give this to the oldest woman, the mother, the oldest woman. And she said, she was so touched. And then it was like the most amazing thing happened. Everybody wanted to give something. So literally the women started pulling their jewelry off. And I ripped off my watch and I gave it to one woman, and then the mother made her daughter take her earrings off and she gave it to one of us. And then we were literally giving each other our jewelry. It was just amazing. And then we kept, does everybody have something? And then we were digging through our purses, and we just gave and gave and gave. Actually, this chain here, one of the ladies put it on my neck, and one of the other women took her scarf off and put it on one of my sisters, tied it for her. I mean, it was just an extraordinary experience. And then another woman who wasn't actually in the group that we were talking to, she came over. She was an older woman, and she just connected to me. She put her arm around me, and her face was just so beautiful. And there was total, like, there were no words, but she just wouldn't let go of me. And she just kept touching my face and kissing me on both sides. I said to the translator, tell her that she feels like my mother. And so she translated that, and then the woman said to her, she feels like my daughter. And then we both started to cry, and we just kissed and hugged, and it was just beautiful. Really, the key was bringing the coming together of women from different faith backgrounds, from different countries, nationalities, and just finding that common ground, finding that common heart and sharing. And for me, that was really the highlight of the rally. It was just beautiful. And I really felt like you can never underestimate the power of relationship. And that's exactly why women have so much power in the peace process, because our focus is always relationship. And it's so easy for us to find the common ground, no matter where we're coming from. So it just reinforced what I really believe, that women have a very, very crucial role in the peace process, and that relationship is at the core of it. Relationship and forgiveness and love.
Love's been hidden from the eye, hidden by a darkened sky. In a world that's torn apart, the light of love shines in my heart. I have found a place within to dream the dream of peace again. Feel the love the heavens send, how it heals and warms and mends. Here is our home, now is our time. The light of love forever shine. I have known the sun to rise up in a starless night. I have smelled a sweeter scent where blossoms were not evident. Feel the love the heavens send, how it heals and warms and mends. No true love has found its place, and like the sun has shone. Face.
This is Esther Davis, and I do appreciate you watching the Women's Federation for World Peace. I believe in peace. We can all have peace, and it can be a worldwide movement. Just do a little bit at a time. Join us next week for the Women's Federation of World Peace, and I'm Esther Davis, your ambassador for peace.
Love's been hidden from the eye, hidden by a darkened sky. In a world that's torn apart, the light of love shines in my heart. I have found